Shalom Boker Tov, everybody. Usually we don't learn halacha from the section called Ketuvim, the writings at the end of the Tanakh. But if it's something that reveals to us a good way to behave or a good way to have a relationship with God, then if it doesn't contradict anything in the Torah, then we, of course, try to do that. So the source for our class today is Daniel chapter 6, where the king forbade everybody to pray to anybody else but to himself. And Daniel would go to his house and pray 3 times a day. And it said that he had open windows towards Jerusalem, and that's how he prayed. So that's where we learn this halacha from. And of course, again, it's not in the Torah, but it's a detail of the mitzvah that adds to our understanding of how to pray properly. And of course, we also mentioned that if the window is clear and it's at eye level and you can see everybody in the street, that's also not right. So we'll try to balance that. So one should pray in a room with windows, and the Chatchila, it is good that a window facing Jerusalem be open. So this is from the Shulchan Aruch, chapter 90. When someone is in a place with no windows, he should pray in a well-lit place, since some explain that the reason for praying in a room with windows is that the light settles the thoughts of the person praying. This is Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah, one of the last Rishonim. And so basically there's 3 understandings about those windows that Daniel had. One was that they had to be directed to Jerusalem. The other is because he could have light and like this explanation and concentrate. And the third one is even more environmentally sound, is the idea that you have fresh air. Because the next paragraph in this chapter will be about praying in a place that smells bad. So that's, we're trying to balance those things. In a synagogue, there are those who enhance the mitzvah by building 12 windows, and that's for the 12 Shvatim. And of course, many communities have stained glass with the different symbols of the tribes. There are some beautiful synagogues that I've visited. One is in Toronto, the other one is in Jerusalem, and it's incredible how they do this art. And again, it's not to distract. If you want to just look at the art, come before shul, and like we talked about yesterday. The windows should be also high so that it is possible to see the sky and not see things that may distract people from the prayer service. The person should not recite the Midah in open areas, and the one who prays in an open place is called insolent. Of course, nowadays with the war going on and everything else, and 3 years ago with COVID, and the rabbis had to make these concessions in order for us to be able to pray in an open space, whether it's in the street during COVID or in the field with the army. But trust me, when the soldiers pray in the field, and I've done this many times in my service, we actually concentrate a lot better because we know that there's all these distractions that might be there, and also we need to hear the chazan, right? And even in a closed space, if there's close space between us, if there's engines running or whatever, we have to concentrate even better. So, but the reason for this in general is that in open areas, one's thoughts scatter, and in closed and modest place, the king's eye is upon him, and his heart is humbled. Furthermore, in an open space, people may pass by him and disturb his concentration. Those who are traveling are allowed to pray along the way, and if there are trees there, it is better to pray between them. So if you're pulling over on the highway because it's almost sunset, try to pull over next to a gathering of trees. And again, it's just that way you can concentrate better. Similarly, it is preferable to pray next to a wall and not in a completely open area. It is even better to pray in a courtyard surrounded by walls, since the main principle is to have a nearby partition, even without a ceiling, as we talked about yesterday. One may pray in the plaza of the Kotel, the western wall, because it is surrounded by walls on 3 sides, but even without it, moreover, the exalted holiness of the site strengthens one's love and awe of Hashem, causing one's prayer to be said with more kavanah. So to flip it to the other way, if we are visiting the kotel and we want somebody to take our picture at the kotel, we should try to find somebody who's not in the middle of davening, because that would be forbidden. And it's just the idea of consideration of these people also came there to pray, and so you should try to avoid disturbing their prayer. And the best way to see is there's one person standing on the side, not part of a minyan, then he's probably not praying. But if you see a tehillim in his hand or whatever, then again, have to be considerate. Yitzchak Avinu, our forefather Isaac, practiced this way as well. He recited Mincha on Mount Moriah, the gateway of prayer, which was then an open field. As it says, Yitzchak went out to meditate in the field. And very, very quickly, the Midrash says that Abraham called it, meaning the place of prayer, Mountain Har. Yitzchak called it a field, and Jacob called it a bait, a house. And of course, that's how we do it today. We do it in a house, and we concentrate better. We have a better understanding. And the last paragraph of this is when it is not possible to pray in a synagogue, for instance, when it is occupied by a different minyan, it is permitted to pray behind the synagogue on condition that one faces the direction of the synagogue. So behind here doesn't sound really correct, because behind means in front of the door that opens into the synagogue. And it's just the translation from Hebrew is not really good here, because he immediately says that it is also permissible to pray alongside the synagogue when facing Jerusalem. However, it is forbidden to pray in front of the synagogue, meaning on the side of the ark, because then your back is to the ark. And even if you turned your face to the ark and davened from that side of the outside of the synagogue, your back will be disrespectfully turned towards Jerusalem. So that's why we have to consider those things. And again, if you're traveling, my opinion is, and I don't know what Rabbi Herzfeld's is about praying in a plane. And it's better to sit in your seat and concentrate than to be at the end where the stewardesses are trying to serve coffee and whatever, and you keep getting bumped into. And but that's just my understanding, and that's how my rabbis taught me. So let's learn about areas that are free from bad smells. It is forbidden to say or think matters of sanctity in a place that contains feces or other foul smells. As is written in Deuteronomy, you will return and cover your excrement. This is because God, your Lord, walks among you in your camp. Your camp must therefore be holy. This law consists of many details, and we will learn a few of them. Anything within 4 amot, approximately 2 meters or 6.5 feet, of a person is considered to be within the confines of his camp. Hence, if there is excrement in his 4 amot, his camp is not holy, and he is forbidden to pray there. If the excrement is in front of him, as long as he sees it, he is not allowed to pray, and that has nothing to do with the smell. Even if it's 10 feet away, you're not allowed to pray in the presence of such a thing. If the smell spreads, he must distance himself as much possible from where the smell ends. Even one whose sense of smell is impaired is required to distance himself like others who smell the odor, because not everybody knows that you're like that, and so they will think that you're being disrespectful and think of you very negatively. The above law regarding human excrement applies also to anything rancid whose stench causes people to be revolted. Therefore, one must distance himself from a carcass and from malodorous animal excrement, just as he must distance himself from human feces. Foul-smelling vomit follows the same law as excrement, but if the vomit does not smell bad, there are those who are lenient and do not consider it like feces, especially if it's right behind you, and it doesn't smell. Then you don't have to look at it, but it also doesn't bother your recitation. If a person recited Shema or the Amidah within 4 amot of feces, he did not fulfill his obligation, and the Shema or the Amidah must be repeated, even if he was unaware that there was excrement there. If somebody pointed it out to them, then he should repeat the Shema and the Shemona Esrei. And last, the poskim are divided regarding a person who recited the brachot of Kriyat Shema and other brachot within 4 amot of these bad smells. Some say that because he transgressed the biblical prohibition, he did not fulfill the obligation, and others maintain that it is only necessary to be stringent concerning Shema and Amida. I don't think he brings it here, but I think he does bring it in the book about Mishpacha, where if you come to the shul and you're holding a baby and the baby soils its diaper, you must stop in the middle of a midah and leave, because otherwise you are causing everybody else to not be able to fulfill their obligation of the Shema and Shemona Esrei. So when we had little kids, I just remember that we would make sure that they had a clean diaper when we got there, meaning that they went to the bathroom before. And then, accidents happen. So, like I said, you must leave immediately to where the smell will not bother anybody, and change the diaper, even if you are in the middle of Amida. So, questions, comments, criticisms?